Welcome to my channel Theory Hubz. Today we will share 3 horror scary stories with you that may have you rethinking about going to that upcoming concert. So turn off the lights, grab some headphones, and make sure to like and subscribe if you don't want this bad luck to shed onto you. Our group had been looking forward to the festival for months, a sprawling electronic music extravaganza set in a secluded valley. Renowned for its all-night parties and vibrant atmosphere, it was the place where memories were made. As we entered the festival grounds, the energy was palpable. Thousands of people from all corners of the globe gathered to lose themselves in the music, the lights, and the collective ecstasy of the experience. The first day was everything we had hoped for. Our favorite artists played back-to-back sets on stages that pulsed with life, their beats synchronized with spectacular light shows that illuminated the night sky. We danced for hours, fueled by adrenaline and the sheer joy of the music. It was during one of these sets, deep into the night, that we first noticed him, slumped against a tree on the outskirts of the crowd, a lone figure in the shadows. Concerned, we approached, thinking perhaps he needed water or just a moment away from the intensity of the crowd. But as we drew closer, the scene that unfolded was far grimmer than we had anticipated. The young man was not simply resting, he was convulsing, his body racked with spasms, his eyes rolled back to reveal only the whites. His breath was ragged, a frothy mix of saliva and vomit at his lips, signaling a dire emergency. Without hesitation, we sprang into action. I shouted for help while my friends attempted to stabilize him, placing him in the recovery position and checking for any response. The festival's pulsating bass continued to boom through the air, a stark, surreal contrast to the critical scene before us. It took what seemed like an eternity for the medical team to fight through the crowd and reach us, their expressions taut with urgency. They worked quickly, administering naloxone amidst the chaos, their professional calm a thin veneer over the tension of the moment. Around us, the festival raged on, the majority of the crowd oblivious to the life and death drama unfolding at their feet. It was a chilling reminder of how easily real dangers could be masked by the facade of festivity. After the medical team whisked him away, the weight of what had happened hit us. We tried to rejoin the festivities, to recapture the night's earlier carefree spirit, but the shadow of the incident lingered over us, darkening our mood. The image of his strained, pale face haunted me, a ghostly imprint that no amount of rhythmic dancing could dispel. As dawn broke, casting a soft light over the valley, our group sat on a hill overlooking the festival. The music had softened, a gentle hum compared to the night's fervor. Below us, the aftermath of the party was visible. Trash littered the ground. People lay exhausted in tents and under trees, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy that had pulsed just hours before. It was during this quiet moment that a chilling thought struck me. How many others had found themselves in similar peril, unnoticed in the anarchy of the night? The festival's final day was subdued for us. We moved through the motions, attending sets and watching performances, but the gloss of the festival had faded, replaced by a growing unease. Conversations with other attendees revealed that ours was not an isolated incident. Whispers of other emergencies and close calls began to surface. Tales of festival-goers who hadn't been as lucky, whose stories hadn't ended in rescue. By the time we packed up to leave, the festival no longer felt like a haven of music and escape, but a dangerous illusion. The drive home was quiet, each of us lost in our thoughts, processing the weekend's harrowing events. It was only when I was alone in the silence of my room that I fully allowed myself to reflect on the fragility of life amidst such a backdrop of revelry. I later learned that the young man we helped survived, thanks to the quick response of the festival's medical staff. But the relief I felt was tainted by the knowledge of what could have been, a tragedy hidden in plain sight, masked by the deafening drop of the bass, the memory of a struggling form lying vulnerable among a sea of dancing bodies, remained etched in my mind, a haunting reminder of the night's darker face. The festival had promised an escape, a brief foray into a world of endless nights and music. Instead, it offered a grim lesson. Beneath the lights and laughter, there lurked shadows we were unprepared to face. The joy of the dance, the thrill of the escape, now felt like distant echoes, overshadowed by the stark reality of human frailty.
The anticipation of the festival had been building for months. Nestled in the vast expanse of the desert, it promised an escape from the mundane, a surreal experience where art and music melded into the natural landscape. As I packed my gear, visions of dancing under starlit skies and exploring avant-garde art installations filled my mind. It was to be a weekend of liberation, an adventure into a world crafted from dreams. Arriving at the festival, the reality surpassed even my wildest expectations. The desert had transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds. Stages rose like phoenixes from the sand, each hosting a different symphony of lights and music that beckoned the throng of attendees drawn from all corners of the globe. For the first 2 days, I was lost in a euphoric haze of rhythmic beats and hypnotic performances. On the third day, driven by a desire to delve deeper into the festival's artistic offerings, I ventured toward the outer edges, where the more enigmatic installations promised a quieter, more introspective experience. The art here was more spaced out, each piece a solitary sentinel in the vast desert. Among these, a particular installation caught my eye, a labyrinth of towering mirrors designed to distort and multiply the desolate beauty of the surrounding landscape. As I wandered through this maze, the reflections creating endless versions of myself, the atmosphere shifted. Clouds began to gather, a rare sight in the desert, casting a shadow over the land. The wind whispered secrets as it began to stir the sand, a gentle caress that slowly grew into an ominous howl. With a sudden, sharp clarity, I realized I was alone. The laughter and music from the festival, now distant echoes. The sky darkened rapidly as a sandstorm brewed on the horizon. A monstrous wall of sand, rising like an ancient curse, awakened. Panic seized me. The playful maze of mirrors turned into a trap, reflecting the swirling storm, disorienting and confusing. Every direction seemed the same, a loop of twisted images and shifting sands. In my frantic attempts to escape, the storm hit with full force. The world was obliterated by a blinding, churning chaos of sand. I wrapped my scarf tightly around my face, my eyes stinging, each breath a battle against the invasive grit. The howling of the wind seemed to carry voices, whispers of past attendees perhaps, lost like me, their cries woven into the storm's wrath. Stumbling blindly, every step became a gamble. The ground beneath my feet felt unstable, uneven. Without warning, the earth gave way slightly under my weight, and I found myself sliding down into a shallow depression, hidden by the sand. Heart pounding, I scrambled out, but not before noticing something half buried in the sand at the bottom. A weathered backpack, perhaps left by a previous, unfortunate soul who had wandered off the beaten path. Climbing out, my mind raced with thoughts of other lost wanderers, their stories untold, swallowed by the desert. The storm showed no mercy, the sands shifting under me, as if trying to swallow me into its depths. Every shadow seemed to move, every noise a potential threat. My isolation felt complete, the festival a world away. Hours passed, or perhaps it was minutes. Time lost all meaning in the face of my desperation. Dehydration began to set in. My throat parched, my lips cracked. I was a plaything, at the mercy of the desert's whim. Just when I thought I could go no further, hallucinations took hold. The sands around me seemed alive, shifting into faces and hands, reaching for me, pulling me down. Then, in the midst of my delirium, a figure appeared through the storm, a silhouette, not formed by any trick of the light, but solid and real. A wave of relief washed over me, only to be replaced by a surge of terror as the figure approached, its features obscured by the sand. Was it a rescuer, or something more sinister? A mirage crafted from my fears. As the figure drew closer, the sand settling, it became clear. It was no savior. Clad in remnants of festival attire, torn and sand-blasted, the figure was another attendee, his eyes wild with fear. He spoke in hurried, disjointed sentences, tales of getting lost, of friends vanished into the storm, of shadows that whispered in the night. His words spiraled into madness, and I knew we were both caught in the same nightmare, our fates intertwined by the desert's cruel indifference. Together, we wandered, two souls lost amidst the echoes of a festival that had turned into a ghost of itself. The music was now just a faint, haunting drone, the lights a mocking flicker in the distance. When we finally saw the outlines of tents, it felt like emerging from a different world. A world where the desert was not just a backdrop for revelry, but a living, breathing entity, indifferent to the human dramas that played out on its sands.
Winning backstage passes to one of the year's biggest hip-hop concerts felt like striking gold. The lineup was a roster of my musical heroes, artists whose tracks had been the soundtrack to my life's pivotal moments. But as I would soon discover, behind the glitz and glamour lay a darker reality, one that would transform my dream into a nightmare. Arriving at the venue, I was ushered through a maze of security checkpoints, each step taking me deeper into the heart of the event's backstage, a world far removed from the polished performances and cheering crowds. The air was thick with anticipation and anxiety, a potent mix that set my nerves on edge. As I navigated through crowded hallways and equipment-laden rooms, I caught glimpses of artists in their raw moments. Tense faces, sharp gestures, hurried last-minute rehearsals that spoke of the immense pressure just beneath the surface. The deeper I ventured, the more the initial thrill waned, replaced by an unsettling tension that I couldn't shake off. I was a stranger here, an outsider privy to a world that wasn't meant to be seen by the public eye. The walls, lined with dimly lit posters and shadowy alcoves, seemed to close in around me, each step echoing ominously along the corridor. As the main act kicked off, I was stationed just off stage, the perfect vantage point to witness the spectacle. The energy was electric, palpable. The crowd's roar felt like a living, breathing entity. Yet even as I marveled at the scene, a disturbance caught my attention. A heated exchange just a few feet away, obscured by a stack of speakers. Two of the night's performers, surrounded by their entourages, were locked in a fierce argument. The confrontation was intense, their bodies taut with aggression, faces contorted in anger. Accusations and threats sliced through the air, each word laden with venom. The festive atmosphere I had so cherished was slipping away, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Suddenly, the argument escalated. Shoves turned into punches, shouts into cries of pain. The violence erupted like a storm, fast and furious, catching everyone off guard. Security guards scrambled to intervene, their shouts barely audible over the din of the concert. Caught in the middle, I felt my heart race, panic setting in. The area became a battleground, each participant fighting invisible demons as well as each other. As I tried to back away, I stumbled into a darkened part of the backstage, my retreat cut off by a sudden blackout. The power flickered, plunging the hallway into darkness, the only light now coming from the intermittent flashes of the stage lights. Shadows danced on the walls, turning familiar objects into grotesque figures. My breath came in short gasps, the darkness amplifying my fear, turning every sound into a threat. In the shadows, I could hear the muffled sounds of the continuing scuffle, the grunts and cries eerily distorted. My imagination conjured images of unseen horrors lurking just beyond my sight. The backstage area, a labyrinth of passageways and hidden rooms, felt like a trap, each turn and corner potentially hiding a new danger. I found myself cornered in a narrow passageway, the walls lined with old costumes and props that swayed gently, as if touched by an unseen hand. The air was thick, stifling, filled with the smell of sweat and fear. Just then, a figure emerged from the darkness, a security guard, his face a mask of concern. He ushered me towards a small room, a temporary sanctuary from the chaos outside. Inside, I sat on a dusty couch, trying to calm my racing heart. The room was cramped, filled with discarded stage props and costumes. As I waited for the all clear, the eerie silence was punctuated by distant thumps and muffled shouts, a stark contrast to the booming bass of the concert. The room felt like a coffin, enclosing me with the weight of hidden secrets and forgotten stories. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the door opened. I was led back through the now quiet backstage, past scenes of disarray, overturned equipment, scattered personal belongings, a testament to the night's earlier violence. The festival's illusion of unity and joy had been shattered, replaced by a chilling reminder of the darkness that can thrive in the shadows of such massive events. As I left the venue, the cool night air did little to ease the tightness in my chest. The sounds of the festival, once a symphony of joy, now echoed with the undertones of the night's terror. I realized that behind the spectacle of fame and celebration, there lay hidden depths of human fragility and aggression. The backstage, with its dark corners and hidden dramas, had revealed the true face of the event, a face marred by conflict and fear, forever changing how I viewed the world of music and its glittering facades. With it.